I knew something was off when I got to the restaurant and the waiter asked if I'd still be needing a table for five. I smiled and said yes, knowing full well I shouldn't have. I was raised to believe that family showed up, especially for the big moments. But there I was, in a corner booth near the window, fiddling with the napkin and checking my phone every 10 seconds like some rookie on a first date. I even laughed to myself, trying to play it cool. "They're just late," I muttered under my breath as I ordered a drink I didn't really want. "My name's Eric, I'm 33, and after nearly a decade of busting my back in the same mid-sized firm, I finally got the promotion I've been chasing for years. Senior Project Director. It wasn't just a title, it was validation. It was all the nights I worked past midnight while my friends were out. It was every weekend I said no to a beer so I could finish another report. It was stability. It was progress. It was mine. And I wanted to share it with the people who said they believed in me. My mom, my brother Jordan, my cousin Michelle, and Uncle Ray. That was the short list. The ones who said they were so proud of me last Christmas. The ones who cried when I bought Mom a car she could rely on and covered the mortgage when Dad passed. The same people who told me, "You're the glue holding us together." 2 hours passed. No calls. No texts. The only thing lighting up my phone was a notification from my banking app showing the restaurant tab climbing steadily. I told the waiter to bring out the entrees. I was too embarrassed to leave, now too stubborn to admit they'd bailed. It was when I took the first bite of my steak, trying to pretend I wasn't sitting in an empty booth, that my phone buzzed again. Family night out for the real success story. Attached was a group photo. Smiling faces. Wine glasses. My mom. My brother. Michelle. Uncle Ray. All dressed up at some beachside grill. Jordan was standing front and center holding a key fob in one hand and flashing a cheesy grin with the other. Behind him, a shiny new jet ski on a trailer. The caption? "He earned this. So proud of you, bro." I stared at that photo for what felt like 10 minutes. No mention of me. Not even a "sorry, we'll make it up to you." Just a big fat family gathering for Jordan and his impulsive toy. And then I saw the message from Mom, sent exactly an hour before that post. "You're not exactly a priority right now. We'll catch up soon. Enjoy your dinner." I don't know what hit me harder, how casually it was written or how rehearsed it sounded, as if she'd been waiting for the right moment to finally say it. I paid the $1,940 bill, left a 25% tip, because the staff kept pretending not to notice how alone I was, and drove home in silence. When I got inside, I didn't turn the lights on. I just sat at the edge of my bed, phone in hand, going through memory after memory like a silent slideshow. Every grocery bill I covered. Every "I'll pay you back next week" that never happened. Every emergency call that ended with me wiring money, just until things stabilize. Every time Mom told me Jordan was just figuring himself out. Every lie I told myself that I wasn't being used. I walked into my home office, logged into the shared mortgage account I'd been silently funding for 3 years, and stared at the payment schedule. $1,830 monthly. Auto-deducted from my salary every 10th. I opened a new tab, clicked on the bank's contact, canceled it. Just like that. Then I grabbed a sticky note, scribbled 5 words, drove to the house I hadn't stepped foot in since Easter, and taped the note to the door. "Let him pay it now." I didn't even wait to see if they were home. I drove off, phone on silent. I went to bed without brushing my teeth or changing clothes. The last thing I remember was the sound of my heartbeat echoing in my ears. By morning, my phone had 81 missed calls. Most were from Mom, a few from Jordan, one from Uncle Ray, and 3 texts from Michelle that said, "Call me now, are you serious, and we need to talk." But I didn't answer any of them. I just scrolled slowly through the missed calls, staring at the timestamps like they were puzzle pieces trying to form an apology that hadn't yet arrived. That's when I saw the voicemail icon. I hesitated. Something about hearing their voices felt heavier than reading their texts. Like it would make everything too real. But curiosity won. I pressed play, and what I heard next made me grip the edge of the nightstand until my knuckles turned white. It was my mother's voice, but not the one I grew up with. The soft, sing-song tone she used when she tucked me in as a kid, or the proud voice she used when I made honor roll in high school. No, this one was cold, high-pitched, frantic. "Eric, what did you do? The mortgage bounced. I got a call from the bank this morning, and they said the payment didn't go through. I don't understand. Why would you do that without telling us? You knew we were counting on you. Your brother, he's finally doing well, and you're being spiteful." Then, like some dramatic sitcom, she dropped her voice into a teary whisper. This is not how family behaves. I replayed that line. This is not how family behaves. Again and again, the irony sinking in deeper every time. The next voicemail was Jordan. Bro, this is messed up. Mom's freaking out. We were gonna handle it. We just needed a little time. You didn't have to pull the plug like that. Seriously, are you trying to make us lose the house? A little time. 3 years of payments. But apparently I should have given them more time. The third voicemail was Michelle. She didn't even try to pretend. Okay, wow. So you're punishing the whole family now? Over what? A dinner? Grow up. You always act like you're the martyr, like you're the only one who does anything for anyone. Newsflash, you're not the only one who works hard, Eric. Jordan's been hustling too. He finally got a break, and we wanted to celebrate. I'm sorry your little job promotion got overshadowed, but you didn't have to blow up everything over it. That one made me laugh. A tight, joyless laugh, but still. My little job promotion. I sat on the edge of my bed, looking around at the silence in my apartment. No family portraits. No souvenirs from group trips. Just a clean place I paid for, alone. It wasn't loneliness I felt, though. It was clarity. I finally saw the pattern I'd been ignoring for years. My brother, Jordan, always got the attention. The "he's just figuring things out" excuse was the family motto when it came to him. Even when he flunked out of 2 colleges. Even when he totaled his first car. Even when he started 3 businesses and let each one quietly fold without paying back a single loan. He was the dreamer, the one with potential. Meanwhile, I was the dependable one, the invisible safety net. They didn't clap for me when I got my degree early. They didn't throw a party when I paid off mom's car or when I negotiated with the bank to stop foreclosure after dad passed. But they called me a good son in public. They loved that image of me always being the stable one, the provider, the reliable background character in their louder, Messier story. Until I stopped. That afternoon, I finally answered one call. Uncle Ray. He was always the more level-headed one. Never got involved unless things went nuclear. I figured if anyone deserved a conversation, it was him. Eric, he said, voice low and tense. You've got to talk to your mother. Why? I asked, calm but blunt. So she can guilt me into covering for them again? He sighed. She's a wreck. Says she didn't know how left out you felt. I chuckled. She didn't know? Did she also not know she texted me to say I wasn't a priority? Ray didn't respond to that. Just silence. I let it hang there. They've got 30 days, I said finally. That's how long until the bank posts a final notice. She's scared they'll lose the house, he muttered. I shrugged, even though he couldn't see it. Maybe Jordan can sell the jet ski. Ray actually laughed. Just once, sharp and unexpected. Then he cleared his throat. You're serious, aren't you? For the first time in a long time. He didn't fight me on it. I think, in some twisted way, he understood. Maybe he'd seen this imbalance too, but didn't say anything. Maybe he'd been me once, just further down the road. Later that night, I got a long message from Mom. She called it a misunderstanding. She said she didn't mean for the dinner to turn into a competition. She tried to soften the language, even included an "I'm proud of you" buried somewhere in paragraph 5. But then she ended with, "Don't let this one mistake ruin everything we've built as a family." One mistake. It was then I realized we'd been building 2 very different things. I'd been building trust, responsibility, structure. They'd been building convenience. A system that worked as long as I didn't question it. The moment I pulled back, it cracked. The next morning, I checked the shared account. No payments had been made. No one had even tried. They were waiting for me to cave. To be the bigger person. That was always the script. I closed the account entirely. By that afternoon, Michelle showed up at my apartment. Uninvited. She knocked. Hard. And when I opened the door, she marched right past me like she owned the place. We need to talk, she said, arms crossed. I stayed by the door. About what? About this little tantrum you're throwing. You're hurting Mom. I stared at her. Hurting her? She texted me mid-dinner to tell me I wasn't a priority. While celebrating Jordan, the guy who hasn't paid for a meal in years. He bought a jet ski, she shouted. He's doing something for himself. That's not a crime. No, I said slowly. But pretending like that's some grand achievement while dismissing everything I've done for the family? That's the problem. She glared at me, eyes sharp. You always act like you're the victim. No, I'm done being the sucker. She scoffed. They're your family. They were, I said quietly. Now they're just people I used to pay for. That was when the shouting outside began. Jordan, in the parking lot, pacing next to Mom's car. I watched him through the window, rubbing his hands through his hair, yelling into his phone. I didn't need to hear the words. I could guess every one. And I didn't move. Because for once, I wasn't going to be the one who cleaned it all up. Michelle didn't leave right away. She stood there, staring at me like she was trying to find the old version of me. The one who would have apologized by now. Maybe even offered to transfer a partial payment, just to ease the tension. I waited, arms crossed, saying nothing. She must have realized I wasn't bluffing, because eventually she turned without a word and walked out. No slam of the door, no dramatic final remark, just silence. It was a strange kind of calm after she left. Not peace exactly, more like stillness after a long storm, where you're not sure if the skies have cleared or if another wave is coming. I made coffee. I sat on my balcony. I watched the same neighbors walk their same dogs in their same routines. But my world had shifted. That afternoon, I got a text from my old friend Cam. He'd been my roommate back in college, knew my family dynamic better than most, though he'd only ever seen the tip of the iceberg. Dude, you okay? Your mom just called my mom. Said you're having a breakdown. I stared at it for a moment, then sent a short reply. Nah, just finally woke up. He didn't push further. Just sent back a thumbs up emoji and a proud of you, man. That hit harder than I expected. Around 6 p.m., my phone buzzed again, this time a FaceTime request from Mom. I didn't answer. A few minutes later, a long wall of text came through. She started soft, tried the warm, guilt-tinged maternal tone. Eric, sweetheart, please don't let this spiral any further. I know things didn't go the way you hoped, but we were genuinely happy for Jordan. We didn't mean to overshadow you. Can we talk? Please? I'll cook your favorite, lasagna night, just us. We need to fix this. Then, almost like flipping a switch, the second paragraph turned sharp. But canceling the mortgage was reckless. You put us all in jeopardy. You had no right to make a unilateral decision about the house, especially when you've been covering it voluntarily. This wasn't your burden to drop. Voluntarily. That word did something to me. As if I'd just happened to drop $65,000 over 3 years like it was spare change I stumbled over on my way to work. No apology. No acknowledgement. Just expectation. It reminded me of last Christmas, when Jordan had gifted Mom a designer bag, but used my credit card without asking. It's just easier this way, he'd said, laughing like it was a harmless prank. And Mom, she'd said I was overreacting for demanding he return it. It's family, she had whispered, patting my shoulder. You always help. It's just who you are. But maybe it didn't have to be. Later that evening, I was scrolling through emails when a new one popped up. Subject line: Notice of payment failure. Final warning. I opened it. It was the official 15-day notice before the mortgage entered default status. I could almost hear the panic setting in across town. I didn't reply. Instead, I pulled up the old spreadsheet I'd kept, one I hadn't updated in months. Every wire transfer, every utility payment, every temporary loan that was never repaid. Each row was neatly labeled, color-coded by recipient. It took up 10 full pages. Over $82,000 across the past 5 years. I stared at the total. Then I opened a blank document. Titled it, What I Owe Myself. And I began writing. It wasn't just a financial reckoning. It was personal. Emotional. For every time I was talked over at the dinner table. For every, we'll get you next time birthday. For every celebration I funded and was excluded from. I didn't realize how heavy the weight had become until I finally set it down. That night, I received a video message from Jordan. He was sitting on the couch, hair a mess, face flushed. Man, what are you doing? He said, voice trembling with fake calm. You're punishing everyone over some dinner? Grow up. Yeah, we messed up. But this? You've got Mom crying every hour. Michelle's blowing up my phone. And now the bank's calling. He looked away for a second, then added, just turn the payments back on. We'll talk after. I didn't respond. Because they didn't want to talk. They wanted to reset the system. Patch the hole without addressing the leak. 3 days passed. I went to work like normal. I started jogging again. I cooked actual meals. It was almost comical how much time I suddenly had. I didn't have to check if Jordan's car insurance had renewed or if Mom's electric bill was paid. I didn't have to set calendar reminders for Michelle's rent. And every morning, I watched the group chat grow more chaotic. Michelle had renamed it to Emergency. Eric, please respond. Then Mortgage Crisis. Then Family Unity chat. Broken heart emoji. I muted it. I only opened it once, just to read a message from Uncle Ray. I warned them this would happen. You were never the weak one. You were just too generous. That message? I saved it. Because it was the first time someone in that family said it out loud. The turning point came on the 7th day. Mom showed up at my door. But not alone. She brought Jordan. And Jordan brought the jet ski. On a trailer. Parked right in front of my apartment like a peace offering wrapped in idiocy. She knocked once, then again. I didn't answer. She called out, "Eric, sweetheart. Please, just let us explain." I watched from the peephole. Jordan was pacing, holding a paper in his hand. From what I could see, it looked like a bank notice. Mom stepped back, looked directly at the door. "I know you're in there," she said softly. "You're proving your point, okay? We get it. You're upset. But don't throw away your family over one mistake." Another one. One mistake. That was when I realized she wasn't really here for me. She was here to fix the mortgage. Not the relationship. Not the betrayal. Not the years of emotional negligence. Just the payment. I didn't open the door that night. I just stood there, watching them through the peephole until Mom gave up and Jordan finally peeled away in that shiny black truck towing his dumb $9,000 apology. I remember wondering if he'd even made the last insurance payment on it. The next day was payday. For the first time in years, my account didn't show a giant deduction to cover a house I didn't live in. My paycheck felt heavier, like it meant something now, like it was mine. I stared at the total for a long time, trying to remember the last time I had looked at my own bank balance and smiled. But the peace didn't last long. By noon, I got a call from the bank's collections department. The house, my mother's house, was officially 2 payments behind, and because of the type of mortgage, the default process had already started. I wasn't liable, of course. I'd removed my name years ago after covering enough temporary payments to realize I was being roped into more than I ever agreed to. But that didn't stop the bank from trying. "I'm not the responsible party," I told the woman calmly. "You'll want to contact the homeowner directly." There was a pause. Then the woman said something that stuck with me. She said, "You'd handle it." Said, "You've always handled it." That's when I realized Mom hadn't told them I stopped paying. She hadn't called the bank herself. She just waited, expected, assumed that the safety net she'd wrapped herself and wouldn't dare walk away. Until it did. That evening, I got the knock again. This time, Mom was alone. No Jordan. No trailer. Just her and a tote bag. "Eric," she said when I opened the door, "please. We need to talk." I didn't say anything. I just stepped aside and let her in. She walked like she was entering a stranger's house. Looking around, eyes wide, like she was expecting to find photos of herself still on my walls. There weren't any. I motioned for her to sit. She didn't. She stood by the window and looked out, then turned to face me. "We're going to lose the house." I nodded. I figured. "You can stop this," she said, voice cracking. "You can call the bank and—" "No," I interrupted. Calm. Final. She blinked. "What?" I said no. "I'm not calling the bank. I'm not making any payments. I'm done." Her jaw tightened. "This isn't just about money, Eric. It's about family." I almost laughed. "Mom, the night of my promotion dinner, you texted me to say I wasn't a priority. Then you threw a party for Jordan because he bought a jet ski. You called that family. I call it a joke." She flinched. "It wasn't meant to hurt you. But it did. And you didn't care until the bills stopped getting paid." Silence stretched between us. She lowered herself slowly into the chair like she was settling into the weight of it all. "I didn't realize how much you were covering," she said softly. "That's the problem," I replied. "You never wanted to realize it." She shook her head, voice barely above a whisper. "Jordan's not like you. He needs more help." "No, Mom," I said firmly. "He needs consequences." She looked up at me, eyes glassy. "He's your brother. And I'm your son." She stared at me. And for once, there was no defense. No script. No guilt trip. Just the empty echo of truth sitting heavy between us. "I didn't want to believe it," she said. "That you'd just leave us like this." "I didn't leave," I corrected. "I stopped being used." She swallowed hard. "What are we supposed to do?" "You figure it out." Like I had to. Like adults do. She blinked, then looked away. And for a moment, I saw her not as the mom who raised me, but as a person flawed, scared, and entirely unequipped to deal with the reality she'd built. When she stood to leave, she didn't hug me. She didn't cry. She didn't yell. She just gathered her bag and paused at the door. "Is this really the end?" she asked. I thought about it. About birthdays I spent alone. About covering holidays, tuition, medical bills. About every time I was asked to make room for someone else while no one made space for me. It's the end of me pretending this was love, I said quietly. She nodded. Didn't argue. Just opened the door and stepped out. And that should have been the end. But it wasn't. Because 10 days later, Jordan showed up. Not at my door. At my work. I was mid-meeting when my phone buzzed with a text from the receptionist. There's a man in the lobby asking for you. Says it's urgent. Jordan. My stomach dropped. I excused myself and headed down. There he was, sitting in a chair, tapping his foot, wearing sunglasses indoors like some kind of failed celebrity. When he saw me, he stood. Hey, we need to talk. I didn't move. Here. Yeah, well, you've been dodging everyone. Figured I'd come to you. I led him outside. We stood under a tree near the parking lot. He wasted no time. We lost the house, he said. I stayed quiet. They gave Mom 30 days to vacate. Michelle's trying to help but can't do much. Uncle Ray's ticked. Says we should have seen it coming. I nodded once. Why'd you do it, man? He asked. You got your little promotion. You were fine. You mean financially? I asked. He shrugged. Yeah, you're the one with the stable job. And that meant I had to carry everyone else? He looked at me like I was speaking a different language. I bought the jet ski because for once, I wanted to do something for me, he muttered. And I stopped paying the mortgage because for once, so did I. He stared at me, and something shifted. His mouth twitched. A realization creeping in behind the ego. Mom's gonna stay with Michelle, he said eventually. I'll probably crash at Uncle Ray's. Good. He looked down at the gravel. I guess I always figured you'd just keep handling it. I know, I said. He looked back up, eyes narrowing. So that's it? You're just out? Not out, I said. Free. He shook his head. You think you're better than us? No, I said. Just better without you. He didn't like that. But he didn't argue. Just turned, walked to his car, and drove off. That night, I opened my phone. Scrolled through the group chat one last time. Read every message I'd ignored. Then I deleted it. 1 week later, I moved to a new apartment. Bought a desk I'd been eyeing for months. Booked a solo vacation. I even got myself a new number. The money I used to spend on them? I put it into a high-yield savings account. The time I used to spend worrying? I spent reading, hiking, sleeping in. And the guilt? Gone. Because sometimes the cruelest thing you can do to someone who's used to leaning on you is stand up and walk away. For good. My name is Cassandra, but most people just call me Cass. I'm 32 years old, and to put it bluntly, I've done well for myself. Not in a flashy way, not in a way that screams millionaire, but well enough to be comfortable. I have a career I love, I travel when I want, and I don't lose sleep over bills. Most importantly, I got here on my own. No handouts, no shortcuts, just years of hard work. That's something my family can't stand. I grew up in a household where success was measured in two ways: how much you could take from others, and how loudly you could complain when there was nothing left to take. My parents, Lisa and Mark, were experts at both. My older brother, Nathan, and my younger sister, Rachel, followed in their footsteps without hesitation. The four of them were a tight unit, always watching each other's backs, but not in a loving, supportive way. More like a pack of wolves, waiting for the right moment to sink their teeth into anyone who showed weakness. I was different. Maybe it was because I was the middle child. Maybe it was because I learned early on that relying on them meant setting myself up for disappointment. Whatever the reason, I left home the moment I could, put myself through college with scholarships and side jobs, and carved out a life that had nothing to do with them. That should have been the end of it. But family ties are complicated. No matter how much distance I put between us, they always found a way to pull me back in. Not with kindness, not with apologies, but with guilt. They were struggling. I was doing well. Wasn't it my duty to help? And, stupidly, I did. It started small. A couple $100s here, paying off a late bill there. Then came the loans that were never repaid, the emergencies that somehow only ever seemed to happen to them. And then, the house. I bought the house 2 years ago as an investment property. A beautiful 3-bedroom home in a good neighborhood, the kind of place I wished I'd grown up in. It was supposed to be a rental, something to generate passive income. But my parents had other ideas. The moment they found out I owned a house, the manipulation began. My mother called me in tears, sobbing about how their landlord had raised the rent again, how they couldn't afford it, how they were going to end up on the streets. My father, always the more practical one, didn't cry, He just sighed heavily and told me how disappointing it was that their own daughter would rather rent to strangers than help her family. Nathan and Rachel chimed in too, acting like I was some kind of monster for hesitating. "You have everything," Rachel had sneered. "Why can't you just do this one thing for them?" So, I caved. I told myself it was temporary, that they'd get back on their feet and move out in a few months. But months turned into a year. A year turned into 2. And in all that time, they never paid a single cent. Not for rent. Not for utilities. Not even for maintenance. I covered everything. And if I ever dared to bring it up, they acted like I was the one being unreasonable. "They're your parents, Cass," Nathan had said once, shaking his head like I was some ungrateful child. "You wouldn't even have this house if they hadn't raised you." Rachel was worse. "What's a few $1,000s to you? You make more in a month than most people do in a year." The way they saw it, my success wasn't really mine. It was theirs. Something they were entitled to. Which brings me to tonight. It's my father's birthday, and my mother insisted on throwing a big family dinner at the house I paid for, of course. I had no intention of going. I had long since stopped trying to be part of their little club. But then my mother called, her voice syrupy sweet, telling me how much it would mean to them if I showed up, how it had been so long since we'd all been together. I should have said no. I should have ignored the call and gone about my life. But there's still that part of me, buried deep down, that wants to believe they're capable of being different. That maybe, just maybe, they can treat me like a daughter instead of a walking ATM. So, I go. I park down the street, taking a moment to gather myself before walking up the driveway. The lights inside are bright, shadows moving behind the curtains. Laughter spills out through the slightly open window loud, unfiltered. I pause, my hand on the doorknob, just as my name is spoken. "She actually came?" Rachel's voice drips with amusement. "I thought she was too busy hoarding her precious money to spend time with her family. Maybe she's finally learned to be generous," Nathan laughs. "Doubt it, though. You know how she is. Ungrateful," my mother sighs. "After everything we did for her." My father scoffs. "No husband, no kids, all that money and nothing to show for it. She thinks she's better than us, but in the end, she's going to die alone." Rachel hums in agreement. "She should be grateful she even gets to help us. Not like she'd have anywhere else to belong." I let go of the doorknob. There's no anger, no sadness, just a cold, quiet realization. They will never change. They don't love me. They never did. To them, I'm not family. I'm a resource. A bank account they can draw from whenever they want, with no regard for the person behind it. I step back from the door, turn around, and walk away, my heels clicking softly against the pavement. I pull my phone from my pocket, my fingers steady as I dial the number. A voice picks up on the second ring. "Cassandra? What's up?" I take a breath, the night air crisp against my skin. "I'm ready," I say. "Start the eviction process." Silence. Then, a low whistle. "Finally had enough?" I glance back at the house one last time, the light spilling out like a warm invitation I know better than to accept. "Yeah," I murmur. "I think I have." I hang up the phone and slip it back into my pocket, the weight of what I just set in motion hitting me all at once. My heart doesn't race. There's no rush of adrenaline or triumph. It's more like a quiet relief, like the moment you let go of something heavy after carrying it for far too long. For the first time in years, I feel like I'm finally doing something for me, something that's been a long time coming. I stand there for a minute, just breathing in the cool air, grounding myself before heading back to the family gathering. As I approach the door again, I can hear their laughter from inside. The words are still there, lingering in my mind, Rachel's mocking tone, Nathan's dismissive chuckle, my parents' disappointed sighs. I force myself to take another step and enter the house. The dining room is decked out like some sort of celebration, balloons, banners, and a cake that I know my mother didn't bake herself. The moment I step inside, the conversation dies down, and all eyes shift to me. My family, for all their flaws, knows how to make an entrance feel like an event. The silence isn't uncomfortable, though. It's almost as if they're waiting for something. A dramatic pause before the performance begins. "Cass, you made it." My mother's voice is syrupy sweet, too sweet, like she's trying just a little too hard to play the role of the doting mother. I force a smile and nod, as if her backhanded compliments and veiled criticisms don't bother me. "Come in, dear. Take a seat. We've been waiting for you." I slide into a chair at the end of the table, the seat that's always been mine since I was a kid. They've never made room for anyone else. No boyfriends, no partners, no friends, just me. I can feel their eyes on me, but I keep my focus straight ahead, pretending to admire the centerpieces. Rachel shoots me a quick glance, her lips curling up into a barely concealed sneer. It's always been like this with her, like she's bitter I've managed to carve out a life without relying on them. My father grunts from the other end of the table, fiddling with his fork as he eyes me like I'm some kind of puzzle he hasn't quite figured out. "So, Cass," he says, his voice low and careful, "how's the business going? Still raking in all that cash?" His tone is passive-aggressive, the kind of jab that's supposed to sound innocent but is anything but. I don't take the bait. "It's going well," I say, keeping my voice neutral. I won't give them the satisfaction of knowing how well it's going. "Busy, but good." "Good, good," my mother says quickly, too quickly. "Glad to hear it. We've been wondering, though, how much longer we can stay in this place. We don't want to overstay our welcome." The words hang in the air for a moment, and I can't help but laugh inside. They really think I'm that naive, that I haven't noticed the way they've been manipulating me for the past 2 years. The guilt trips, the faux concern, the constant reminders of how hard they've worked for me, all of it, designed to make me feel like I owe them something. Nathan, always the one to push things a little further, leans back in his chair with a smirk. "Yeah, I mean, Cass, you're doing so well for yourself. I don't think it'd be too much of a stretch for you to, help us out more. We've been living here for a while now." I feel my jaw tighten, but I keep my composure. "You're welcome to stay as long as you need to," I reply, my voice as calm as I can manage. "But I think we both know this situation can't go on forever." Rachel pipes up, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Yeah, right? If you ever decide to actually help us. But I guess it's hard when you're too busy spending your money on yourself, huh?" I force a smile, but I can see her smirk faltering as I lean forward slightly, my eyes meeting hers. "Rachel, you've never been shy about telling me what you think I should do with my life. But just so you know, I don't need to justify my success to you or anyone else." The words are sharp, cutting through the tension in the room, but I don't care. I've let them push me around for far too long. My mother shifts in her seat, her smile never quite reaching her eyes. "Of course not, dear," she says, but there's a thinly veiled bitterness in her tone. "We just want what's best for you, that's all." I glance around the table, and for the first time, I don't feel the pull of guilt or obligation. I don't feel the weight of their expectations pressing down on me. I know, deep down, that what I'm about to do is the right thing, even if they'll never see it that way. I nod slowly, my gaze hardening. "Well, I've made some decisions, and I think it's time we have a conversation about the future," I say, my voice steady, but with a firmness that makes everyone in the room sit up a little straighter. I don't need to say it aloud, they all know what I mean. I'm done being the one they can lean on without ever giving anything back. It's time for them to face the consequences of their actions. The silence stretches on, thick and uncomfortable. My father is the first to break it, his voice low and edged with something like impatience. "What's that supposed to mean, Cass?" he asks, his brow furrowed. "You don't think we've done enough for you over the years?" I let out a slow breath, my mind flashing back to all the times I've been the one to help, the one to bail them out, the one to fix things when they couldn't be bothered to try. "No, I don't," I answer softly, but the words hit harder than I expected. "And I think it's time you all start to figure things out on your own." The room goes still. There's no arguing, no outburst, just a tense, unnerving silence. I can feel my mother's eyes on me, but I don't flinch. I've made my decision. Now, it's time to let them stew on it. As the night drags on, the conversation shifts, but the tension remains. I can tell they're all trying to act normal, but it's like they're walking on eggshells around me. I don't care. I'm done playing along. By the time I leave, nothing has been resolved, but I know something's changed. I've set things in motion. And when I get home, I make that call again, just to confirm. This time, I'm not backing down. And they don't even know what's coming for them. The following morning, I wake up to a quiet sense of satisfaction that lingers in the air. It's not the kind of satisfaction you get from winning a fight, but the kind that comes when you finally put yourself first after years of giving so much to everyone else. I made the call last night, and today, it's all going to come to a head. I'm sitting at my kitchen table, sipping on my coffee, when I hear the familiar ring of my phone. It's my lawyer. I glance at the screen and answer with a steady voice, even though I can already feel the nerves bubbling beneath the surface. "Cass," the lawyer greets me, his tone crisp. "It's all set. We're ready to send them the notice." My heart skips a beat. I take a deep breath. Perfect. Let's do it. I can already picture it, the shock on my parents' faces when they get the official notice that they have to vacate the house. The house I bought for them to live in, under the pretense that it was just temporary. They don't know that I've already made the arrangements to have them removed if they don't comply. After everything, it's time for them to face the reality of their actions. They've taken advantage of my kindness long enough. As the hours tick by, I try to keep myself calm. I'm not nervous. I'm just ready. I don't need to justify myself anymore. I don't need to wait for their approval or their guilt trips. This is my decision, and I'm not backing down. I can almost hear the arguments already. How could I do this to them? How could I kick them out after everything they've done for me? But I know the truth, they've never truly done anything for me. It's always been about what they could take, not about what they could give. And this is me finally drawing a line in the sand. The text comes through at exactly 11:30 a.m., official, professional, and final. The eviction notice has been sent, and in less than 30 days, my parents and siblings will be out of the house. I stand there for a second, staring at the phone, and let out a slow exhale. A wave of relief washes over me. They won't understand it now, but they will eventually. They have no idea how much this moment has taken out of me. And then, at that exact moment, my phone buzzes again. This time, it's a text from Rachel. It's a single sentence. Why would you do this? I stare at it for a long moment, almost laughing to myself. The audacity of it. It's just like Rachel to flip the script, to make me the villain in this whole situation, to act like I'm the one who's done something wrong. I don't respond right away. It's better to let her stew for a while. I'll deal with it when the time's right. That evening, I drive over to their house to talk to them. The tension is thick from the moment I step inside, and it's not just because of the notice I sent earlier. No, there's something else simmering underneath the surface. My mother's eyes are cold when they land on me, and my father's hands are clenched tightly around his drink. Rachel and Nathan are already seated at the table, their faces like open books, exposed, angry, and confused all at once. They know something is different. They just don't know what. I make my way to the table, and for the first time in a long time, I feel like the one in control. No more walking on eggshells. No more pretending to be something I'm not just to keep the peace. This is my turn. Cass, we need to talk about this, my father says, his voice tight. You can't just throw us out like this. We've been here for 2 years, and you owe us. I don't flinch. Actually, I don't owe you anything. I've done more than enough. But I can't keep doing it anymore. My mother's voice rises slightly, desperate. How can you do this to your own family? After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us. Rachel's eyes narrow, and her lips curl into a sneer. It's typical of you, Cass. Always thinking you're better than the rest of us. You think you can just pull this kind of thing without any consequences? I turn to face her, my voice steady but filled with a quiet certainty. I'm not the one who's been using my family's kindness for my own advantage. You're right. Maybe I am better than you. I don't need to hide behind guilt or manipulation. I can stand on my own. Rachel's face flushes, but before she can snap back, my father interrupts, his voice hardening. You think this is about you being better than us? It's about respect. It's about family. You think we don't deserve a roof over our heads after everything we've done for you? We gave you everything, Cass. We sacrificed for you. And look where we are now, I shoot back, my frustration bubbling to the surface. You've been living in my house for 2 years without paying rent, taking advantage of me at every turn. You're not the ones who made sacrifices. You didn't give me anything that was worth anything. I did this all on my own. Enough. My mother snaps, her voice rising in a rare display of anger. I can't believe you'd turn your back on us like this. You're disrespecting your family. I shake my head slowly, the disappointment in their eyes not fazing me anymore. No, Mom, you disrespected me a long time ago. I'm done being your safety net, your charity case, your punching bag. You don't get to guilt trip me into submission anymore. The table goes silent, and for a moment, no one knows what to say. The usual cycle of guilt tripping, manipulation, and self-righteous anger seems to have hit a wall. No one knows how to react when I stop playing along. Rachel's lips tremble with anger, and she stands abruptly, knocking over her chair. I can't even look at you right now, her voice cold and cutting. You're awful. My father stands up, too, his voice low and seething with a barely controlled rage. You don't get to treat us like this. You'll regret this, Cass. You'll regret everything. I won't, I reply, my voice steady and unwavering. Because it's done. The house is mine, and you'll have to figure things out without me. I feel the weight of the words settle between us, and I know that this moment, this conversation will change everything. But there's no going back now. I've crossed a line, and it's too late for them to fix it. I turn to walk out, but not before I hear my father's voice one last time. You'll be sorry, Cass. You'll see. I don't answer. I don't need to. Because I know, deep down, they'll never see things the way I do. And they'll never understand why I did what I did. As I close the door behind me, I feel a strange sense of finality. There's no going back from this. And they don't even realize that I've just set everything in motion. The following weeks felt surreal. Every time I walked into my house, I couldn't help but notice the weight that had lifted from my shoulders. There were no more angry, guilt-ridden texts. No more visits from my parents. No more passive-aggressive remarks from Rachel. It felt like a lifetime of tension had finally unraveled, and for the first time in years, I had room to breathe. But of course, that wasn't the end of it. I knew it wouldn't be. The eviction notice had been crystal clear, and the clock was ticking down. My parents had tried to delay it. They'd attempted to appeal, sending me pleading messages about how hard things were for them. It was the same old story, but I had already made up my mind. My decision was final, and nothing they said could change that. I hadn't heard from them for a while, not until the day the movers arrived. I was at work when I got the text. My mother, ever the victim, had sent it with a simple line, "You're heartless." My first instinct was to respond with something equally cutting, but I stopped myself. There was no need. I had already done what was necessary. They had to face the consequences of their actions. The movers arrived that afternoon. My parents weren't home, which, frankly, was better for everyone. I didn't have to deal with their angry words or guilt-laden attempts to manipulate me one last time. I had given them more than enough chances. Now, they would face the reality of what they had done. By the time I got back home that evening, the house was quiet. It was empty, and the only thing that remained was the hollow space left behind by the people who had once filled it. There were no more arguments, no more demands. I walked through the house, looking at the rooms that had been occupied by them for so long. It was almost like a weight had been lifted from the very walls themselves. The silence was deafening, but it felt good. I checked my phone. There was another message, this time from Rachel. "I can't believe you kicked us out like this. You don't even care about family. You think you're so much better than us." I didn't even bother responding. The next few days were strange. My phone buzzed with family members trying to get in touch, messages from cousins, distant relatives, and even some of my friends who had heard rumors. Some of them tried to play mediator, asking if I could just forgive them, or telling me how harsh I was being. They didn't understand, and I couldn't bring myself to explain. What was there to explain anyway? I had been carrying them for years, allowing them to manipulate me and guilt-trip me into doing everything for them. But no one had ever truly been there for me. No one had ever asked what I needed or how I felt. It was always about what I could give. My parents didn't respect me. They never had. They were angry now, but that would eventually fade. They'd be fine, and if they weren't, that wasn't my problem anymore. A week after the eviction, I finally heard from my father. He didn't ask how I was doing or check on me. Instead, it was a long, angry rant about how I had destroyed the family and that I would eventually come crawling back, realizing my mistake. I read the message, then deleted it. The next family gathering was awkward, to say the least. My parents and siblings were nowhere to be seen. I hadn't expected them to show up, not after everything that had gone down. But I couldn't help but feel that cold pang of disappointment when I realized they weren't there, either. It was probably for the best. I wasn't about to beg them for forgiveness. I wasn't going to let them drag me back into that toxic cycle of guilt, manipulation, and ungratefulness. It was over. As the days passed, I noticed a subtle shift in the way I approached life. I stopped feeling guilty for prioritizing my needs over theirs. I started making decisions for myself, without worrying about their reactions. I didn't need to explain myself to anyone anymore. But the hardest part was the quiet. I hadn't realized how much noise they had filled my life with until they were gone. There was no one to judge my every move, no one to make me feel bad for my success. It felt like a weight had been lifted, not just from my shoulders, but from my heart. I've thought about reaching out, trying to mend things, but every time I'm tempted, I remind myself why I did it. It's not about revenge or getting back at them. It's about taking control of my life. It's about finally standing up for myself after years of putting everyone else first. In the end, I realized something important. They may be my family, but family doesn't give you the right to treat someone like an option, to take advantage of their generosity without ever offering anything in return. Family should be about respect, love, and mutual support. I had done everything I could to be there for them, but I was never going to be their doormat again. So, for now, I'm at peace with my decision. It's not easy, and it's not something I take lightly, but it's the right choice for me. Now, I want to hear your thoughts. Am I wrong for doing this? Should I have tried harder to make things work with my family? Or was this the only way? Let me know what you think. It was a Tuesday when the text came through. Just 3 words. We all agreed. At first, I wasn't sure what it meant, but the pit in my stomach already knew. A minute later, my phone buzzed again, and this time it was a full sentence sent by my mom. We all agreed. You're not welcome at the wedding. No punctuation, just that smug little dash she always used when she wanted to sound formal. A smirk in text form. I stared at the message, rereading it like the words might somehow change if I blinked hard enough. But they didn't. My sister's wedding. The one I helped pay for. The one I helped plan. The one where I'd spent months putting out emotional fires, listening to crying fits, and booking every vendor because my sister, Sarah, was too stressed to deal with it. The same Sarah who, 2 weeks ago, called me her emotional rock, while I wired over another $1,500 for centerpieces that looked like Pinterest threw up on a florist. My name's Kyle. I'm 31. And up until that message, I thought I was doing something good, being the glue that held things together for a family that always seemed just one missed call away from falling apart. I'm not rich, not by any means, but I've worked in IT long enough to put some money away. I've lived modestly, stayed single, and saved while everyone else splurged and borrowed. For years, I thought that meant I was blessed, and they were just unlucky. Turns out, being the responsible one just makes you the family ATM with no overdraft protection. The wedding was supposed to be next Saturday. A beachside venue on the coast, with a ridiculous ivory and gold theme my sister insisted was classy, but looked more like a royal baby shower. I paid for half the venue deposit, booked the flights, even reserved the honeymoon suite in Cabo under my name because my mom's credit wasn't good enough to secure the reservation. And now, I wasn't welcome. I didn't respond to the message. I didn't need to. Instead, I opened my laptop and quietly logged into the travel portal I'd used for the honeymoon flights. 2 round-trip tickets, business class, under my email. I clicked cancel and watched the screen blink for a second before the $3,800 refund notification popped up. Then I went into my savings account and initiated a transfer, $6,500, the exact amount I had wired to my mom last month for what she claimed was wedding overflow costs. I didn't say a word to anyone, just watched the numbers move. I felt nothing, not anger, not even sadness, just a strange sort of calm, like I'd been holding my breath for years and finally exhaled. The first call came at 8:17 p.m. It was my sister. I let it ring. Then came my cousin, then my uncle, then mom. I turned off notifications and went about my night, reheating leftovers and watching a documentary I didn't absorb a second of. By morning, there were 23 missed calls, 4 voicemails, and a single message that made my hand go cold. Please call me. It's Dad. That stopped me. My dad usually stays out of the chaos. He's a quiet man, the kind who'd rather tinker with a busted coffee maker than get involved in family drama. When I was a kid, I used to think he didn't care. As I got older, I realized it wasn't that. He just picked his battles carefully. And for him to step into this one, something was off. But before I could process it, the voicemail started playing in my head, echoing even though I hadn't hit play. I imagined Sarah's whiny tone, Mom's theatrical sobbing, maybe a guilt-laced message from an aunt who hadn't texted me in 2 years. I wanted to delete them all. I really did. But that one message, from Dad, lingered. This didn't come out of nowhere. It started small. A sideways comment here. A joke there. Last Christmas, Mom said, "Well, at least Sarah will give us grandkids." Not everyone can say that. At the time, I laughed it off. I've never wanted kids, and I'm okay with that. But it stung in a way I didn't admit. Then, during Sarah's engagement dinner, I noticed I wasn't seated at the main table. Just to keep things even, Mom had said. But my younger cousin's boyfriend, who'd only been around for 3 months, was seated next to the groom. I swallowed that one too. Like always. They were always little paper cuts, never big enough to justify a confrontation. Until suddenly, they were. After Sarah got engaged, everything became an emergency. Mom called me in a panic over cake samples. Sarah had meltdowns about bridesmaid dresses. I was expected to cover whatever the groom's family didn't. And I did, because I thought helping meant belonging. I thought showing up with my wallet was how I proved I mattered. But it never bought me a seat. It just made me the unpaid intern of their fantasy wedding. And now I wasn't even invited. I sat on the edge of my bed that morning, my laptop still open, the email confirmation of the canceled flights glowing like a quiet middle finger. I scrolled through the missed calls, each name a little louder than the last. Then I got to the message from Dad. Just 6 words. You need to see this now. That's when my stomach dropped. I stared at the message from Dad, my thumb hovering over the screen. You need to see this now. 6 words, but they carried the weight of something heavier than guilt. My father has always been a man of few words, but every one of them is measured. He's not dramatic like Mom, not manipulative like Sarah, and definitely not the type to panic. So if he said I needed to see something, it wasn't going to be another teary voicemail or passive-aggressive family group chat post. I called him. He picked up before the second ring. Kyle, he said, voice low. You got a minute? Yeah, I said, and suddenly my mouth was dry. What's going on? There was a pause. I could hear the muffled thrum of a television in the background, then the volume clicked off. I didn't know they were going to do that. Your mom and your sister. I just found out this morning, after they locked down the seating chart and made the announcement in the family group chat. I'm not even in the group chat, I muttered, more to myself than him. I know, he replied quietly. That's part of it. Another pause. Then he said, Kyle, they told everyone you chose not to come. That hit me harder than I expected. I blinked, trying to make sense of it. What? They said you were pulling one of your loner stunts. That you got upset over something minor and backed out. Sarah told the family you were always a bit dramatic, and this time you went too far. That you didn't want to be there. I laughed, sharp, bitter, humorless. So they kicked me out and made it my decision? Worse, he said. Your mom said you threatened to ruin the wedding if you came. That knocked the breath out of me. She what? Dad sighed, like you didn't want to be the one saying this. She told Sarah's in-laws you were emotionally unstable, still bitter about being single, and that you were jealous of your sister's happy ending. Said you were making everything about you, like usual. Like usual? My voice cracked. I had to stand up. My apartment suddenly felt like it was shrinking. I know, son, Dad said quickly. I know that's not who you are. I've watched you pick up every piece they dropped. You handled that entire engagement party, and no one thanked you. You paid off Mom's second credit card last summer without saying a word. You showed up every time they didn't. But they don't see that. Or maybe they do, and it threatens them. I leaned against the kitchen counter, my hands shaking. So this whole thing, this exile, was a setup? To make me the bad guy? Dad hesitated. Then, with an exhale, said, It's worse than that. They already started telling people you refused to fund the honeymoon out of spite. That's when I knew something had changed in me. Something broke, but not in the way I thought it would. I wasn't hurt anymore. I wasn't even angry. I felt detached, cold, like I was watching a rerun of a show I used to care about but now knew all the plot twists too. They took the money, Dad, I said flatly. $6,500 wired to Mom's account for the honeymoon. I canceled the flights last night. The refund's already back in my account. He was silent for a moment. Then, softly, good. It was the first time in years my father had supported one of my decisions that openly. He wasn't a man of grand gestures, but that one word meant everything. Then he added, There's something else. I wasn't going to tell you, but I think you need to see it. I heard rustling on the other end. Then the ping of a message coming through. I opened my phone. It was a screenshot. A group chat, Mom, Sarah, and a few of the aunts. My name was mentioned in the thread. Mom texted, Don't worry about Kyle. He's just sensitive because no one's ever loved him enough to marry him. I'll talk to him after the wedding, once he realizes how childish he's being. Sarah texted, He's a ghost. Let him fade. Just need to make sure he doesn't embarrass us. And Cheryl texted, So we're agreed, no +1 for him even if he begs? Mom texted, Exactly. No seat, no speech, no drama. He'll get over it. He always does. I read the messages twice, then a third time. And then I deleted them, not out of denial, but because I didn't need to see them again to know the truth. I'd always been an outsider in my own family. The helper. The fixer. The invisible glue. But glue doesn't get a seat at the table, it just holds everything else together while it cracks. And they were right about one thing. I wasn't going to beg. That evening, I sat down and began making a list, not of people to confront, but of systems to dismantle. They wanted me to fade quietly. But they'd forgotten something. I was the one holding the strings. The joint Costco membership with Mom? Canceled. The Hulu, Netflix, Disney Plus family plans removed their profiles. The auto payments I'd been quietly making on Sarah's student loan disabled. And the best part, the venue deposit for the wedding still under my name. Technically, I was the primary contract holder. They'd never paid me back for that check I wrote to lock in the date. I'd been meaning to deal with that paperwork later. No, it was at the top of my list. As I stared at the contract, hovering over the cancel reservation option, I smiled for the first time that day. Because if they thought I was dramatic before, they hadn't seen anything yet. By Wednesday morning, the silence from my end had them spiraling. The voicemails went from passive-aggressive to desperate. Sarah's tone morphed with every message, first annoyed, then pleading. Kyle, can we talk? I think there's been a huge misunderstanding. Mom didn't mean it that way. I didn't respond. I listened with my arms crossed, each new message only confirming what I already knew. They were trying to put the toothpaste back in the tube, and it was far too late for that. But I wasn't interested in revenge for the sake of ego. This wasn't about lashing out. This was about letting go and making sure they felt it. That afternoon, I sat down with a black notebook and started writing out every account, every auto payment, every password-protected bill I had my name attached to. I wasn't dramatic. I was thorough. The irony? They called me the cold one, the robot, the one who didn't feel things like the rest of us. They were right in a way. I didn't blow up. I didn't scream. I calculated. I logged in. Mom's phone plan, which I'd been paying for since 2019 when she got laid off. Suspended. She wouldn't even notice until she tried to make a call during her hair trial on Friday. Sarah's Venmo, which was connected to my bank as a backup card, from when she overdrafted 3 times during college and never figured out how to remove it. Unlinked. And then I reported the suspicious charges on my account just for fun. Fraud protection is a beautiful thing. By Thursday morning, I had an email from the wedding venue. A polite but firm confirmation. Your cancellation request has been received. Per the contract, your deposit will be forfeited unless a replacement booking is secured. I smiled. Let them explain that to the 118 guests flying in for a Saturday ceremony that suddenly didn't have a legal reservation. Around noon, my cousin Mark called. He's the only one who ever treated me like a person, not a tool. His voice was tired. Kyle, what's happening? I didn't lie. I'm done funding a family that sees me as a wallet with legs. He sighed. They're freaking out. Good. Sarah's having a meltdown. She's saying you're ruining her marriage. I gave a dry laugh. If a canceled flight and a frozen honeymoon fund ruins a marriage, maybe it wasn't built to last. He didn't argue. He just said, I wish you'd told me sooner. I always knew they leaned on you too much. That night, I opened my laptop again and logged into my dad's old Dropbox account, the one we used when I helped him digitize all the family records a few years back. Inside was a goldmine of scanned receipts, emails, even the original invoice from the engagement party that I paid for but Mom conveniently forgot I covered. I created a new Google Drive folder, uploaded everything, and titled it Contributions from Kyle Nobody Wanted. Then I copied the link and sent it to every family member on the group thread. I didn't write a caption. I didn't need one. Less than 5 minutes later, I was kicked out of the family chat. Perfect. But the real turn came Friday morning, the day before the wedding. I was sipping coffee, enjoying the quiet, when I got an email from the groom's mother, Linda. We'd met once. She was kind, poised, and very by the book. The kind of woman who kept her silverware aligned and said darling instead of sweetie. Her message was short, but it rattled me more than any voicemail. Subject, concern about the wedding. Hi Kyle, I wanted to reach out directly. I've heard bits and pieces about what's going on, and quite frankly, I'm alarmed. If you have a moment, could we speak? I feel like I'm missing some very important information. Best, Linda. That was the moment I realized this wasn't just family gossip anymore. This was a thread unraveling from both ends. I called her. She answered immediately. Thank you for calling, she said, formal but with an edge of concern. I don't mean to overstep, but my son just informed me that the venue may have been canceled. It was, I said plainly. I paid the deposit. It was under my name. She was quiet for a second. That's not what we were told. I'm sure. Another pause. She cleared her throat. Kyle, I don't know what's been said, but I was told you declined to come. That you'd backed out because you were bitter. I let the silence hang, then asked, do bitter people usually pay for floral arrangements, the wedding cake, the DJ, and half the venue? Linda inhaled sharply. I was unaware of any of that. Of course you were. They needed someone to blame when I pulled out. And when I stopped funding it, they made sure to do what they always do, point the finger at me. Her voice lowered. I understand now why you've distanced yourself. I would have too. But, Kyle, there's something you should know. Sarah, she opened a joint credit card with your mom last week. And she used your name on the application. I froze. What? They claimed you co-signed. My husband caught it when we reviewed the final expenses. He recognized your name on the paperwork. That was it. That was the part that changed everything. I wasn't just the family ATM anymore. I was a target. I sat there, my coffee suddenly cold in my hand, the room closing in around me as Linda's words echoed in my ear. They claimed you co-signed. I hadn't. Not even close. I've always been careful about credit. Guarded, even. After watching mom default on a car loan in my early 20s and drag her credit into the basement with mine tethered behind it, because yes, she had convinced me to co-sign that. I'd spent the better part of a decade fixing my financial reputation. I knew better. I hadn't signed anything for this wedding outside of what I paid for directly. Do you have a copy of the application? I asked Linda, my voice calm but clipped. I do, she said. Would you like me to send it to you? Immediately, please. A few minutes later, it landed in my inbox. There it was, staring back at me, an application for a high-limit wedding credit card with a forged digital signature. My name, address, social security number, even my old work email, probably lifted from tax forms or bank records they still had lying around. I didn't feel rage. I didn't feel sad. I felt clear. All these years, I'd been the fallback plan, the fixer, the silent financier. But forging my name? That wasn't desperation. That was entitlement soaked in fraud. That was theft. And it was the final straw. I filed a fraud report with the credit card company, took screenshots of every detail. Then I filed a police report. I attached the documentation, the forged application, and a notarized statement of non-consent. Then I picked up my phone, and for the first time since Mom's smug message that started all this, I called her. She answered on the second ring, like she'd been waiting. Kyle, she said, her voice overly cheerful. I was just about to call you. Stop, I said, flat. I just want to hear it from you. Did you sign my name on a credit card application? Silence. Kyle, you're being ridiculous. That was just a backup in case the honeymoon ran over. You know how these things go. Did you sign my name? A long pause. Then, Sarah said you would have done it if you knew it was important. I let that hang there like a guillotine. That's not an answer, I said, my voice cold. But it's fine. You can explain it to the investigator when they call. That cracked her mask. What? Are you serious? Kyle, we're family. You're really going to make this ugly over a little misunderstanding? Mom, I said, cutting her off. You kicked me out of a wedding I paid for, lied to everyone about it, and committed fraud in my name. I didn't make this ugly. You did. I'm just putting it in the light where it belongs. Kyle, honey, please, we can fix this. I hung up. That evening, I drove to my dad's place. He was waiting for me on the porch with 2 beers and that silent, weathered look he always wore when things got heavy. You okay? He asked as I sat beside him. I nodded slowly. Getting there. We didn't talk much. We didn't need to. He just handed me the beer and we watched the sun dip below the trees. Eventually, he said, you did the right thing. And somehow, that meant more than anything. The fallout came fast. First came the phone calls from family, my aunts, my cousins, even Uncle Greg, who hadn't spoken to me since 2016. They all wanted to know what was really going on, why the wedding was off, why Sarah had posted a cryptic Instagram story about being betrayed by blood. I didn't respond. Then came the texts, the apologies, the guilt trips. Kyle, I had no idea. We should have stood up for you. Can we please talk? But I was done being their emotional janitor. I let the calls go to voicemail, let the texts sit unread. As for the wedding, it never happened. With the venue canceled and no backup secured, they tried to pivot to a backyard ceremony. But the guests were confused, some turned around mid-flight, and the groom's family, having learned about the forged credit card, called the whole thing off. Apparently, financial fraud before the vows isn't a great look. Sarah went on a posting spree. Cryptic stories, Bible verses, passive-aggressive quotes about snakes in the grass, and family who turns their back on you. I didn't flinch. Because here's the thing. Sometimes the best revenge isn't a dramatic confrontation. It's not yelling or exposing someone in front of a crowd. Sometimes it's just clarity, quietly dismantling the system that took you for granted. walking away while the whole rotten house collapses behind you. About a week later, I got a final message from Mom. You've made your point. We're all hurting. You didn't have to go this far. I didn't reply. Instead, I changed my number. I took a few days off work and booked a trip, solo, just me and my laptop, on the same resort Sarah was supposed to honeymoon at. Funny thing about being the one who booked everything under your name, you know the cancellation policies. I changed the dates, upgraded the suite, took her champagne package and added it to my reservation. And I sat on that balcony, drink in hand, waves rolling beneath me, thinking about how long I'd waited for someone to see me. But I finally saw myself. Not the version they needed me to be. Not the fixer. Not the bank account. Just Kyle. 31, free, and finally, done trying to earn love I never owed them in the first place. I don't know if they'll ever really understand what they lost. But I do. And I'm not giving it back.